Delaware County's only live television newscast from Ball State University's Unified Media Newsroom. You're watching NewsLink Indiana Midday.
Welcome to NewsLink Indiana Midday. I'm Vaughn Jacobson. Just weeks after being discharged from a Rome hospital with a life-threatening pneumonia case in both lungs, Pope Francis, the first non-European pontiff in nearly 1,300 years, is dead at 88. The Pope attended Easter Sunday at the Vatican, giving the traditional Easter blessing from St. Peter's Basilica in the Vatican. As Karen Kaifa reports, from the beginning, Pope Francis had the common touch.
From the beginning, Pope Francis had the common touch.
Buonasera.
A simple good evening from the newly elected Cardinal Jorge Mario Bergoglio from Argentina, the first pope ever from the Americas. Equally at home with the poor and the powerful. On the lawn of the White House, he made a plea for immigrants.
As the son of an immigrant family, I'm happy to be a guest in this country, which was largely built by such families.
The Pope focused much of his attention to those on the peripheries, as he called it, the outsiders excluded from society.
Chi ha fame,
The
sete.
hungry, the thirsty, the stranger, the naked, the sick, those in prison.
He was not so popular at times inside the Vatican. Backlash from conservatives upset about his liberal approach to church teaching, promised reforms of financial transparency never fully materializing, and the scandal of sex abuse continuing to be the Catholic Church's biggest struggle.
He met with victims. He expressed heartfelt sorrow. He expressed resolve to get this right. But, you know, most critics, many victims, would say that that wasn't matched with a policy follow-through.
When the coronavirus pandemic hit in 2020, this image of the Pope blessing the world from an empty St. Peter's Square became a symbol for that desolate time. Francis urged nations to share their vaccines with poorer countries and vaccinated hundreds of homeless and underprivileged at the Vatican. From the beginning of the war in Ukraine in 2022, Francis was an outspoken advocate for peace. Francis avoided outright condemnation of Vladimir Putin, but publicly appealed to the Russian president, begging him to stop for the love of his people, the Pope said. He made similar appeals for peace during the conflict in the Middle East, saying that the Israel-Hamas war had descended into terrorism. He insisted that war is always a defeat and said self-defense that is not proportional is immoral. Francis's most important message was one of fraternity, that we are all brothers and sisters despite our differences. I'm Karen Kaifa reporting.
The Catholic cardinals will be given their 9 days of mourning for Pope Francis before they are sequestered in Sistine Chapel for the conclave, or choosing of the next pope, and are forbidden to speak to anyone outside of the process. A new pope will be chosen once the cardinals vote for a 2/3 supermajority.
And then by the morning, as you must have heard from the President Zelensky as well, they have started the assault.
The declaration: rare earths are critical to modern technology. That's why China's dominance in their production is worrying the U.S. administration, especially now that the minerals have become a weapon being used to counter Donald Trump's trade war. CNN's Ivan Watson has this to report from Hong Kong.
This is a computer mall in Hong Kong. It sells everything from security cameras to desktop computers and phones. And almost all of this technology is made with critically important elements called rare earths.
Everything I can switch on and off would not really work without rare earths.
Take a smartphone, for example.
Rare earths are in vital components in your average iPhone. They're in the microphone, which is actually a tiny little part of the device right here. They're in the motor that vibrates the phone. And you also find rare earths in the screens themselves.
And guess which country has cornered the market on rare earths? China. According to the International Energy Agency, China refines more than 90% of the world's rare earths. On April 4th, after the Trump administration began piling tariffs on Chinese goods, Beijing announced export controls on 7 of 17 rare earth materials, saying the measures are needed to safeguard national security and interests and fulfill international obligations such as non-proliferation.
China's export controls on April 4th were retaliation at one of America's greatest vulnerabilities.
Rare earths aren't just used in consumer technology. The Pentagon says around 900 pounds of the stuff are used in the F-35 Lightning II stealth fighter. In 2010, the U.S. Government Accountability Office warned Chinese rare earths were being used in Abrams tanks and U.S. Navy ships.
So we are entirely beholden to China. I mean, they're weaponizing it in a trade war is what is happening, right? So we're using tariffs. They are using minerals.
In this executive order this week, President Trump wrote U.S. dependence on China for rare earths and other critical materials raises the potential for risks to national security, defense readiness, price stability, and economic prosperity and resilience. The U.S. has only one rare earth mine operating in California. Since 2020, the Pentagon invested more than $400 million trying to establish domestic rare earth supply chains. But experts say it will take years and huge investment for the U.S. to catch up with China's rare earth monopoly. In the meantime,
if China literally cuts you off, you got 6 months of inventory, and you just turn the lights out and go home.
Ivan Watson, CNN, Hong Kong.
Let's take a look at today's NewsLink Indiana weather. These are the conditions right now. It's 64 degrees under mostly cloudy skies. Expect clearing skies but breezy today with a high in the middle 60s. Things will warm up in the 7-day forecast. Temperatures will peak in the low 80s on Thursday before rain brings a cool down for the weekend. Nearly 80 roosters were rescued from cockfighting in Grays Harbor County, Washington, and now they're recovering at a Pierce County sanctuary. Jim Nelson spoke to the co-founder of Heartwood Haven, who says the birds are in good physical condition, but some of the animals have shown signs of aggressive behavior.
Heartwood Haven was founded on the principles of care, respect, and love for animals.
And I'm just going to open up his little door because he's getting shut out of his coop.
Yet the Pierce County Rescue, co-founded by Kate Cirklovich, is often filled with reminders of evil.
Whoever was training these guys really messed them up. And we have nearly 80 of these guys who were rescued from an animal fighting investigation.
On April 1st, the sanctuary was asked to take these roosters in after they were discovered in Grays Harbor County.
This guy, you can kind of tell, like based on his behavior, the way he's picking stuff up and like throwing it on the ground, coming over here, trying to, that's aggression. And we don't typically see human aggression in cockfighting roosters. So these guys must have been like, some of them must have been really messed up in the head.
But most of the birds, Kate says, are well behaved and would do well with proper care. Some stay outside, others inside. It's all part of the evaluation process.
I just reach in and go to grab them.
It's not an exact science.
And if they're like running away, like, oh my God, I'm terrified, ah! That's a green flag.
For now, the roosters are here, but Heartwood Haven needs your help. They could use money to temporarily care for the roosters and good, qualified adoptive homes where these birds can thrive.
I do think that the large majority of them will be able to find homes. That's my hope for them. Of course, there's a much larger hope that cockfighting no longer exists.
Hope is a big part of the mission here. It all started with one rescued rooster.
He was just such an awesome dude who taught us so much, and I know that the rest of these guys are also awesome dudes who deserve the same, even though you're a little feisty.
In Roy, Jim Nelson, King 5 News.
Drones can now help deliver supplies on Mount Everest, the world's highest mountain. 2 drones from Airlift Technology, a drone mapping startup, can safely transport about 44 pounds at a time. They can carry ropes and ladders, as well as life-saving medical equipment, to a glacier between Everest Base Camp and Camp 1. It takes Sherpas, the local climbing experts, 6 to 7 hours to make the same dangerous journey, but it only takes the drone about 6 to 7 minutes, because it makes climbing for Sherpas a lot safer and will likely save lives. The drones will help Sherpas transport equipment before the 2025 season starts, then pick up trash once it begins. Each drone costs $70,000. Students, faculty, and staff at Ball State know the familiar sounds of the bell tower, but most don't know about the man behind the music. NewsLink Indiana's Aiden Murray went up Schaefer Tower to tell its Incredibell story.
Every quarter hour, the bells of Schaefer Tower sound off for the students of Ball State University. The tower was first constructed in 2001 and officially finished in 2002. The tower stands at 150 feet tall and is adorned by 48 custom-made bells. The Schaefers were prominent members of Muncie and strong contributors to Ball State. Their legacy was valued from their strong leadership and extensive charitable endeavors. Behind the beneficence windows flows the sounds made by the carillon that sits in a small room at the top of the tower. The carillon is an instrument truly unlike any other and takes special training to become a carillonist, just like John Gowans, a classically trained carillonist who has had a passion for music and the carillon since he was almost 2 years old.
An interest in chimes and bells and clocks. I've got a big collection of clocks. And an interest in music. All of that was there from the get-go.
The passion Gowans has for the carillon extends from the instrument to the classroom, where during the mid-2000s he came to Ball State weekly to teach a class over the instrument. He even went as far as to write a book about the carillon, since he thought there was no good single source to teach about the instrument. Gowans had input in the building process of Schaefer Tower on matters involving the carillon, and ever since then he often visits during homecoming and graduation to perform. In Muncie, Aiden Murray.
Gowans will be back on campus to play the carillon once more on April 27th. And that's your NewsLink webcast for today. Thanks for joining us. Be sure to join tonight at 6:57 on Ball State PBS. And for news anywhere, anytime, go to ballstatedaily.com.